CNBLUE is unique to me because they have an indie rock feel.
It's Korean pop rock.
Even though they're a K-pop band, I think that their time doing street tours in Japan gave them a very different sound.
I like the fact that they are all capable of playing instruments.
They all love American music.
They remind me a lot of Maroon 5.
Their greatest inspirations are Eric Clapton and John Bon Jovi. They have a song to match every one of your moods.
Everyone knows about K-pop acts and how they're flashy shows. It's pretty easy to market. But a Korean rock act, not so easy. It's a really huge, exciting time for Korean rock.
제 친구, 단짝 친구가 밴드부를 하는데 그 밴드부 공연을 보러 갈 수 있는 기회가 생겼어요. 그래서 기타 치면서 노래하는 그 모습에 반할 줄 알고 그 공연을 보러 갔는데 그 친구는 안 보이고 뒤에 있는 드럼 치는 친구가 눈에 보이더라고요. 그 드럼 치는데 내가 저 친구보다는 조금은 잘 칠 수 있을 것 같다는 생각이 들었어요. 제가.
포지션 정말 다 멋있는 것 같아요. 근데 왠지 베이스는 약간 끊어주는 맛, 약간 맛살리가 좋은 거라서 그 베이스 솔로 치는 사람 막 동영상을 보고 너무 멋있고 잘해보고 싶고 막 그랬던 것 같아요.
처음에 봤을 때는 코드도 모르고 그랬기 때문에 이게 뭔가 하고 그냥 딩가딩가 거리기만 했는데 주위 친구들과 선배들이 조금씩 가르쳐주기 시작하면서 기타를 치면서 제가 음악을 만들고 그럴 때 그러면서 뿌듯함을 느끼는 것 같아요.
기타의 매력은 그 기타만의 그런 소리들, 기타 딱 들으면 기타 선율이다, 기타다 라는 것 자체가 저한테는 굉장히 매력 있는 것 같아요.
Their label, FNC Entertainment, instead of training them in a facility or headquarters or whatever, most K-pop acts do, they actually went to Japan and literally performed on the streets, not only as, an unproven K-pop act, but literally as nobodies anywhere.
아니, 무슨 밴드인데?
CNBLUE라고 이번에
신규.
네, CN 밴드인데 외톨이야 노래 들어보셨어요?
With most K-pop artists, they'll go through up to 12 years of training and then debut. And when they debut, they're debuting on, national television in Korea and then to a wide audience and, with mass marketing. With CNBLUE, they started out more as an indie band. So it's very much the story like what we see, especially here in New York with some of the bands that started out of Brooklyn, with the Brooklyn music scene in Williamsburg and where they were starting out very small. And then they've exploded now into just such a huge band.
휴식이라고 생각해요. 다른 사람들도 마찬가지로 휴식할 때 음악을 많이 듣잖아요. 저도 그런 편이고 제가 드리는 음악이 남들한테 휴식이 됐으면 좋겠어요.
밥 같은 거? 네, 밥. 나의 인생의 음악은 밥과 같은 것이다. 하루에 밥을 3끼 다 먹잖아요. 그렇듯이 꼭 안 먹으면은 주글주글 배고프니까 막 신경질도 나고 짜증도 나고 그러는데 저도 음악을 하루라도 안 들으면 뭔가 불안하기도 하고.
They were almost doing like busker types of performances where they were performing at subway stations and in really small bars. So almost like what you would see in the United States, who started out in a tiny bar and maybe 5 people were clapping.
안녕하십니까.
네, CNBLUE에서 기타 보컬을 맡고 있는 이종현인데요. 네, 노래 한 곡 불러도 되겠습니까?
And although there's always been kind of a work your way up from the bottom in K-pop, in the industry, the difference is when you're starting off as an indie rock band, there's a focus on musicianship and on aesthetic that's very different than is working and navigating the pop industry first. So they had to make it as an indie band. And having to make it as an indie band in a foreign country without that significant of a marketing push is hard.
그래도 예전에는 뭐 악기들을 다 저희가 직접 들고 다니고 했었으니까 그게 조금 또 날씨가 좀 짓궂으면 또 그게 조금 더 힘들고 그냥 그런 게 조금 힘들었는데 또 그런 시절이 없었으면 지금의 저희가 없다고 생각하니까 참 지금 생각하면 너무 좋은 것 같아요.
드럼이 무거웠어요.
You see where in the beginning they were barely even charting on the Oricon charts. They were barely making a mark.
However, they did generate some minor buzz, and minor buzz is better than no buzz, and the sales weren't strong, but it did prove that Japan was a potential market for them looking forward to the future.
So a year after the Japan hustle and working on the streets, they went to Korea to make that special K-pop debut.
CNBLUE decided it would be a good idea to have a guerrilla concert, which would be their first one on the streets of Korea.
인터넷에 올라온 문제의 블로그 포스트. 악기에 꽂은 잭이 보이지 않는다며 이들의 라이브 공연을 핸드싱크로 둔갑시켜버렸다.
인터넷에 그런 글을 본 적 있어요. 속상하기도 하고. 밴드는 그런 거 연습 안 하고 그냥 하는 척만 하고 나오는 줄 아는 것 같아요. 정말 연습을 많이 하고 동영상도 많이 보고 라이브 공연도 많이 보고 그러면서 연습을 똑같이 연습 많이 하고 그러는데 그런 편견이 저희 우리나라에서 밴드를 클 수 있는데 좀 막이 되고 있는 것 같은 느낌이 들더라고.
Well, what's different with CNBLUE playing in the streets first is that most artists are nurtured in the fuzzy womb of their labels, and CNB was thrown directly out into the streets and they were like, go perform. And the importance of that is not only does it give them the authenticity in terms of having that indie rock band aesthetic and feel, it also allowed them to be able to hone their artistry to a point where audiences were drawn to them.
그냥 좋아요. 그냥 매력 있어요. 시크해요. 축구밖에 못하지만 CNBLUE 사랑해요.
Like, yeah, they were doing covers, but they also would weave in some of their own material. So those street performances help build their initial fan base. That's important for marketing, but it's also important for the development of the artists and their artistry in terms of being confident with their artistic voice and their vision.
안녕하세요, CNBLUE입니다.
I think what has helped them in South Korea as compared to Japan is the fact they've all been involved in dramas and in successful dramas.
Korean dramas play a big part in CNBLUE's success. A lot of new fans will come across a drama and they'll look up maybe someone who's caught their eye as their favorite actor or, you know, their favorite singer, and they realize, oh wow, this person is in this group.
On that level, they've surpassed, I think, by comparison of even some of the larger K-pop groups in the fact that they have a following that's merged into both, and that's very, very rare. Even looking at, I think it was 2012, where every single member of the group was nominated for an end of the year award for their acting and for their drama participation, which is so rare.
KBS, NBC, SBS, these are like huge networks of Korea. You know, they're like your ABC or NBC and, you know, your CBS. And the fact that these huge companies are recognizing these guys' talents is the highest honor you can get in media.
Blue Story is amazing because
Right off the bat, huge success. They went #1, I think it was 15 days after that debut.
they go #1 on MNET. And going #1 on MNET is able to catapult them to going #1 on every single one of the other major charts.
It was so well received that a group still has yet to beat them in that record. The guys, proved themselves an underground band in Japan. They prove themselves, as a formidable K-pop act. And then when they go back to Japan, it's time to get bigger and better.
So they sign with Warner Music Japan. They come back to Japan after 2 EPs that flopped. With their first release, they are stars.
By November 2011, In My Head, the first Japanese album under Warner Music Japan, it sold 100,000 copies within the first month of going on sale.
Incidentally, Chung Young-hwa, which is the group's leader, wrote and composed In My Head. It was the first time that they would actually release a title track, and it was self-composed and self-written.
In 2013, CNBLUE's Re-Blue album goes to #1 on Billboard's World Album charts.
With RE Blue, their newest release, where it just charted across the boards and was an all-kill in Korea.
So CNBLUE has come a long way from performing in subway stations in Japan and struggling with their first 2 EPs. They've come a long way from being the rookies. They're at #1 on Billboard, and that's a really huge accomplishment.
FNC made a point of saying that they weren't just going to stay in Asia, which was huge. And I know that they were the first Korean rock band to go into Latin America, which is another huge accomplishment. And they have a huge fan base in Latin America, especially in places like Brazil and Peru, where surprisingly K-pop and K-rock are just blowing up.
Here you have this K-pop band that starts out as indie rock band in Japan, comes back home, is in everything from reality television to becoming chart toppers 15 days after their first single release. And what do they end up doing? Proceeds of every single album sold and proceeds from their tour go toward building schools.
일단 아프리카의 부르키나파소라는 지역에 CNBLUE 스쿨을 짓게 됐고요. 학교를 지음으로써 거기 부르키나파소에 있는 어린 친구들이 많이 밥도 먹을 수 있고 그리고 공부도 할 수 있고 그런 모습들을 저희도 사진으로 봤을 때 굉장히 뿌듯하고 그 친구들 웃는 모습을 보니까 굉장히 행복하더라고요. 그래서
They, reach something like 100 preschoolers and they reach 1,000 school kids altogether.
Their next school is going to open sometime, hopefully this year, but it was announced in 2014 for the Philippines. And it shows that aside from the music, for them it's about more than the music. And I think that it's a really honorable enterprise to choose to open up these schools and be able to touch kids that may not even be in your target market base. They're just doing it because they care.
In 2011 and 2012, CNBLUE made the Forbes Korea Power Celebrity list. That places them among the huge girl groups, the huge boy bands, the top paid actors, and putting them among groups like Girls' Generation and Big Bang, who had huge sales, and that leads to huge endorsement deals. That really goes to show that this is a group that is really viable and really can be a huge moneymaker.
When I heard that the tickets were going on sale for New York, I was so excited. I said, I'm going. There's definitely going to be tons of fans lined up. I know that there are numerous fan projects by some of their clubs and their groups that are based in the United States have already been planning out. And I believe there's already people about to start camping out. So there's definitely going to be a huge turnout. And I know there's some fans that are going to see them in LA and still going to see them in Mexico.
A lot of fans actually braved New York City weather in January, which was pretty much a blizzard, and stood out on lines from like midnight the night before.
I know people who are fans of CNBLUE on an international level from 12 all the way up to, I know a CNBLUE fan who's 79.
There's no limit to the CNBLUE fans. Older men, younger women, even some children. CNBLUE's fans are called boice. And that is a name that CNBLUE gave to us because we're their voice, and it makes me feel special.
They understand their fan bases very well, what's going to sell, but at the end of the day, at the heart of the matter, on every single album, they push the envelope of what K-pop can be perceived as because of these rock overtones and this rock authenticity.
These are 4 really attractive guys, clearly talented, but they could have easily gone on a route where they let the company mold them into whatever they wanted, but they came from being nobodies. They really hustled so hard to make it where they are. This is a group that really worked hard and really embodies that whole concept of keep hustling and you'll make it no matter what.
실력 같은 경우에는 저희가 계속해서 늘려가야 되는 부분이고, 무대에 많이 서는 게 일단 저희 꿈을 이렇게 이루어가는 차원에서 정말 좋은 것 같습니다. 최고였던 것 같습니다. 앞으로도 저희 CNBLUE 더욱더 멋진 무대, 그리고 즐거운 무대, 진지하게 음악을 사랑하는 친구들이라고 생각해 주셨으면 감사하겠습니다. 네, 지금까지 CNBLUE였습니다.